Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching a special broadcast here on DD India. Now, 14th February is the first anniversary of the 2019 Pulwama terror attack. On this day, a convoy of vehicles carrying Indian security personnel on the Jammu-Srinagar National Highway was attacked by a vehicle-borne suicide bomber at Lethpura near Avantipura in the Pulwama district of the Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The attack resulted in the deaths of more than 40 personnel of an Indian paramilitary force known as the Central Reserve Police Force or CRPF. The Pakistan-based Islamist terrorist group Jaish-e-Mohammed was behind the attack. The attacker was a local who was also a member of the Jaish-e-Mohammed group. 12 days later, on 26 February 2019, the Indian Air Force crossed the line of control which separates the Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Indian fighter jets dropped bombs on a terrorist training camp at Balakot in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan, killing a large number of terrorists. Now, as dastardly as it was, Pulwama was but just one of a series of terror attacks aided and abetted by elements in Pakistan. In the last decade and more, Pakistani terrorist Hafiz Saeed has carried out a number of terror attacks in India. He masterminded the 26 November 2008 terror attacks in Mumbai, which claimed the lives of nearly 200 people. Now, Saeed and his cohort of terrorists did not stop at Mumbai. In the last decade or more, Pakistan-based terrorists have carried out attacks at Pathankot in 2016, in which 7 persons were killed. Pampur in 2016, 8 killed. Uri also in 2016, 23 killed. Nagrota in 2016, 20 killed. Sunjuan in 2018, 11 killed. And Avantipura in June last year, in which at least 5 persons were killed. So the question is, will the recent conviction of Hafiz Saeed by a Pakistani court in 2 cases of financing of terror change Pakistan's attitude or calculus? Will it lead to a reduction in violence in the Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir? Will Imran Khan and General Qamar Javed Bajwa stop using terror as an instrument of state policy? We'll discuss about these and related issues over the next 30 minutes. 2 guests will join me in the studio to answer this question. Hafiz Saeed conviction, real or lip service? But first, I want to share some more information so that you, the viewer, know what it takes to be on top of the news. A Lahore anti-terrorism court convicted Jamaat-ud-Dawa terrorist Hafiz Saeed in 2 cases of financing of terrorism. Now, Hafiz Saeed was slapped with a prison sentence of 5.5 years and a fine of 15,000 Pakistani rupees in each case. Now, Saeed, a United Nations designated terrorist on whom the US has placed a $10 million bounty, was arrested on 17th July in the terror financing cases. He is lodged at Lahore's Court Lakhpat jail. Now, Saeed was sentenced in 2 cases of terror financing registered against him in Lahore and Gujranwala cities on the application of the Counter-Terrorism Department of the Pakistani province of Punjab. Now, India remains skeptical about Pakistan's will to curb cross-border terrorism or take action against its perpetrators. Official sources have said that the efficacy of Pakistan's decision to send Lashkar-e-Toiba founder Hafiz Saeed to jail remains to be seen. The sentencing came a few days before the Financial Action Task Force meeting in Paris to review Pakistan's grey listing on its lack of action against terror groups operating from its territories. The sources say that it's also to be seen whether Pakistan takes action against all other terrorist entities or individuals operating from territories under its control. Also, it remains to be seen whether Pakistan brings the perpetrators of Mumbai and Pathankot terror attacks expeditiously to justice. But the US reaction to Pakistan's action is in contrast to India's. According to US diplomat Alice G. Wells, who tweets using the Twitter handle of US Foreign Ministry's Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs, the conviction of Hafiz Saeed and his associate is an important step forward, both towards holding Lashkar-e-Toiba accountable for its crimes and for Pakistan in meeting its international commitments to combat terrorist financing. As Imran Khan has said, it's in the interest of Pakistan's future that it not allow non-state actors to operate from its soil, unquote. All right, two very special guests now join me in the studio. G. Parthasarathi, a former Indian ambassador, and Kamar Aga, a senior journalist. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this discussion. Appreciate it. If I can come to you first, Ambassador Parthasarathi, your thoughts on the conviction of Hafiz Saeed. Is it real or is it just lip service, deceit and deception written all over it?
It's a case of deception very clearly and deceit because Hafiz Saeed is the man who knows too much. And if they put him in, he will squeal, this sort of person. And no doubt he has got much recorded. More importantly, I cannot see as yet the Pakistani military giving up its ambition to seize Kashmir by terrorist attacks and to weaken India's will.
Right.
I think they learnt that certain red lines should not be crossed, as they did in Pulwama and then faced the air attack on the Jaish-e-Mohammed base in Balakot.
Right.
In the case of Hafiz Saeed, he has an earlier link up with the military, though the parliament attack was by Jaish-e-Mohammed. But the worst terrorist attack was the one on Mumbai.
Right.
Now, if you go to the Mumbai trial, the operational head of that attack was a senior commander of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Zakir-ur-Rahman Lakhvi. Now, Lakhvi, they pretended to keep in jail, but in actual fact, when the people visited him, including the Director General of the Inter-Services Intelligence, General Shuja Pasha, met him at jail, treated him like a VIP, and presto, when the heat went off, he was released. And was equally bad, he was allowed conjugal rights and actually produced a baby while in jail. I can't see any other country terrorist receiving such attention. So this is an organization closely interlinked with the Pakistan Army. Unless there is a clear understanding that the Pakistan Army will give up its use of terrorism as an instrument of state policy, not just in India, but both in India and Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, unless they sort of undo the Haqqani network, which is the major terrorist group operating in southern Afghanistan, this is going to continue. And there is a close connection between the terrorists and the terrorist groups and the ISI outfits involved who operate in Afghanistan and in India.
Indeed.
So I can't see that unless there is a drastic change in policy, that's going to happen. And with President Trump signaling that he wants to get out of Afghanistan before at least before the presidential elections in November this year, I can't see them giving it up in a hurry unless the pressure is maintained. So this whole exercise is a farce.
Indeed. Mr. Aga, if I can come to you now, your thoughts on the conviction of Hafiz Saeed. Is it just lip service? And has anything changed at all between 2008 Mumbai attacks to Pulwama and then the several attacks in the interim? So has anything changed on the ground to give you a satisfaction that Pakistan is indeed serious about combating terrorism?
No, I don't see much change in Pakistan's policy which supports militancy in the region. Whether it is in Afghanistan, India or Central Asia, terrorist camps are still operating there. Money laundering continues, terror funding is going on. And the Jaish-e-Mohammed or Lashkar-e-Taiba and other militant groups, they continue to operate from Pakistan. Their charitable organization, the Falai Insaniyat Trust is operating, collecting money which are being sent to other centers in Kashmir and Afghanistan and many other countries. Globally they are collecting funds. They are getting from Arab countries. Every Friday, large number of money they collect from different mosques and madrasas, which comes to Pakistan. So there's no change. And as Ambassador Parthasarathi has mentioned, there is no change in Pakistan's policy which supports militancy. That continues to be a very important instrument in their foreign policy. Besides this, this action was taken. Timing of his conviction is very important just before the FATF meeting, which is going to take place in next few days. You know.
Right.
So they have taken it is an eyewash. You know, another important thing. You know, the Pakistani judiciary is extremely influenced by the Jamaat-e-Islami. Most of the judges since the time of Ziaul Haq are being appointed mostly from the background, either they were directly connected with the Jamaat-e-Islami or
Right.
pro-Jamaati group people were brought into the judiciary. So that is an institution, and we all know Jamaat-e-Islami has a very close link with the army. So therefore there is a nexus between army, Jamaat-e-Islami, militant groups and the other organization, charitable organization. So I don't think much different. This is for time being they have
Right.
arrested, and Hafiz Saeed is a very important man. He has tremendous influence in the army also, because he is also responsible in spreading or Talibanization of the army, because he goes and attend their programs and functions, give sermons, army personals come to their mosque, attend his Friday sermons. So he is very important person for the army, and both are hand in glove
Sure.
and working well.
Ambassador Parthasarathy, we are still to hear from the Pakistani government, but if I can give you a flavor of what the Pakistani media has said on Hafiz Saeed's conviction, I have two editorials, one published by the News and the other by Dawn. First, to the News, it says Hafiz Saeed has been arrested and released 8 times since 2001, number one. Number two, editorial says we do not know how long he will remain behind bars this time round. And number three, it says one can also hope that this is the start of the end of organizations that have given Pakistan needless notoriety in the international arena. So this is the editorial published by the News newspaper. Now coming to the Dawn editorial, and it says to substantiate what Mr. Aga was saying, Saeed's counsel argues that his client was convicted for no other reason than due to FATF pressure ahead of its upcoming meeting, number one. Number two, using militant actors as tools of foreign policy is a failed strategy. And it goes on to say, the fact is that LET JUD fighters have also contributed to instability within the country. The organization has maintained links with the Afghan Taliban and Al-Qaeda, as well as with elements that evolved into the Punjabi Taliban. So your thoughts on what the Pakistani media circles are commenting, and the fact that the FATF pressure may have something to do with Hafiz Saeed's conviction?
Let me say one thing, that in Pakistan, the English dailies are just for the elite and meant to influence foreigners that there is great talk about ending terrorism. The Urdu press, which is a mass media circulation, speaks a different tune.
Right.
So it is played in a way that the domestic public opinion is built towards supporting militancy, while the outside world is told there are so many great pressures, there is no question of us acting. This is a game they paid for the last 30 years.
Right.
And there are enough gullible people in the United States and in Europe to accept this at face value, because they don't know or they don't read Urdu. So the one who does that sort of reading is naturally cynical. The pressure now is greater on Pakistan.
Right.
The Financial Action Task Force, I think anything they say will be diluted by a combination of China, Malaysia and Turkey. And the Turkish Prime Minister is presently in Pakistan.
Right.
So I think Pakistan knows that with some play acting, it can get the heat off. Now the question is, there is no doubt that the American intelligence knows precisely what's happening. They operate all through Pakistan and have pretty close contacts on the ground. So Alice Wells can say anything she wants but as the Americans say, go and tell the Marines that. I think we in India should be more careful. The international community should be more careful, because I think Prime Minister Modi has made one thing very clear. If one party does not accept the sanctity of the line of control,
Right.
and sends terrorists or armed forces across the line of control as they did in Kargil, he will retaliate. How we do it, when we do it, will be decided, but we are not going to accept continuous killing of our soldiers, civilians, and a general feeling of terror. Right now, the situation in Kashmir is peaceful. The peaks are covered with snow, people can't be infiltrated. But I would wait till middle May or June. That's when we picked up on Kargil, that they were about what they had done. So I would wait till the snows melt.
Sure. Mr. Aga, since you referred to the FATF meeting in Paris, just for the sake of the viewers, the FATF plenary will be held in Paris starting 16th February. So all eyes on Paris as we speak, which way it will decide on Pakistan's case pending before the FATF plenary. But talking about FATF, Mr. Aga, there are 3 countries which are firmly on the side of Pakistan. As Ambassador Prasar mentioned, those countries are China, Turkey and Malaysia. Now, in your estimation, doesn't it expose these countries' stand vis-a-vis terrorism? I mean, why are they bailing Pakistan out when they fully well know that terror is used as an instrument of state policy by the Pakistani elite, the Pakistani army, the Pakistani ISI and the government? So what explains their position on backing and supporting Pakistan at the FATF?
There are a number of reasons. Number one, Rajab Tayyip Erdogan, who is the president of Turkey, he wants to emerge an Islamic leader. He is not getting support neither from the Arabs nor from the North African states or from Sahel region, Chad, Mali, Niger, Cameroon, all these states, because they are these are the region, which was ruled by the Ottomans for almost 500 years, So they have a very bitter experience. So they are not going to support him. So now this region, South Asia becomes important for them. Pakistan is the only country in South Asia which has openly come out in support of Turkey or Erdogan, pushing him, and Malaysia also, because he also has some things, that they can play some role in Islamic politics, because these two leaders believe, there's a decline in the Arab politics. Arabs are involved in their own internal affair, particularly the Saudi Arabia itself, engaged in a war. So therefore, they think there's a vacuum and which can be filled by him, Pakistan, Turkey and this combination, these 3 countries, that is one of them. Second thing, Turkey also sees India as its competitor in international affairs, market and everybody, so that is also. Thirdly, Turkey and Pakistan has old ties right from the beginning, the Central Treaty member of the Central Treaty Organization, they're very closely associated with each other. So that is continuing. We didn't see any change even after when Erdogan came to power. Earlier we thought, there might be some change, but that is continuing. So these are the main reason,
Sure.
Secondly, FATF, yes, if Pakistan even remains in grey list, there will be a problem for Pakistan, because foreign investment is not coming even at this moment, when it is out of blacklist, So foreign countries are not interested in investing because they are not sure when Pakistan would be in blacklist. Secondly, internal situation is also very bad.
It may also affect the IMF bailout package.
Bailout
to
package
give it to
immediately,
Pakistan.
that is affecting that. And the internal situation is also not conducive for investments, because the way militancy is spreading, number one. Number two, protests are going on. We see what is happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where the Pakhtun Hafiz movement, has become very powerful. Then in Balochistan, the nationalist movement is very strong. Even in the Sindh, people are not happy, protesting against these central rule. Pashtuns are accusing Pakistani army for the problem which they are facing, because 70,000 people were killed in the operation Zarb-e-Azb, and besides that, thousands of people are missing. They are demanding where are the missing people. They are asking the army, and now they have arrested the leader also of the Pashtun Hafiz movement. So situation is not conducive, and Pakistan economy is in a bad shape, because
Right.
Arabs also earlier used to bail out, now they don't have much money
Mhm.
to bail out Pakistan. So these are the things, let's wait and see what happens in FATF meetings.
Sure. Mr. Parthasarathi, besides FATF, there's another issue of immediate concern to India, and that is the US talks with the Taliban for a potential peace deal in Afghanistan. Now, if that deal comes through, do you fear that the terrorist groups might once again refocus attention on Jammu and Kashmir, on India, and there will be a blowback against India? So, is it a double whammy for India in terms of if the FATF goes soft on Pakistan, and then the Taliban deal comes through, and that will have a repercussion on Indian security interests in Jammu and Kashmir?
No, you see, what really happens is that the Taliban already controls half the country.
Mhm.
That will expand into areas closer to Pakistan's borders and closer to Kashmir.
Mhm.
So certainly that is a source of concern to us,
Mhm.
and really it depends on the terms which America negotiates for withdrawal.
Mhm.
I have no doubt in my mind, by the elections, presidential elections are due on 4th of November this year.
Mhm.
By September, he will be out. They will be out, so that President Trump can tell the American people that he has ended all these stupid military interventions abroad.
Right.
He seems to forget that this intervention took place because New York was attacked from
True.
Taliban-controlled territory.
Mhm.
So as long as they continue at least some form of air support or another support for the Afghan military,
Mhm.
it will not be easy for the Taliban to take over the whole, because then you come back to the non-Pashtun, what we call as the Northern Alliance coming together. So it is into a complex situation, and my concern more is about Afghanistan losing its stability.
Right.
One part controlled by the Taliban, another by forces, a
Mhm.
third by ethnic militias of the Tajiks and Uzbeks and so on. That is worrisome. But that was the situation before the Americans
Right.
intervened.
Mhm.
And I think while Mr. Trump may sort of feel he wants to get out, and that's what public opinion wants, but he'll have to study the repercussions for America itself.
Mhm.
9/11 was planned in Afghanistan
Right.
and executed by people based there.
Mhm.
So the US will have to think of it. But in any case, I think what we should be prepared for is to bear this in mind and develop our own policies in Afghanistan. They have tallied with the Americans after 9/11, but before that we ran our own independent policy with the Iranians and others. So
Right.
we'll have to think of other options then. But unless there is some signs, which I don't see, of the Taliban changing its behavior, because the Taliban, large sections of it are totally controlled by Pakistan.
Right. And very quickly, Mr. Agha, talking about the US policy towards Pakistan in particular. Now, we've heard many US leaders speak about the threats and challenges posed by terrorism. Hillary Clinton says if you rear snakes in your backyard, it will one day come to bite you. Trump himself, in his South Asia strategy in August 2017, said that there are 20 terror groups operating out of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and that Pakistan cannot anymore run with the hare and hunt with the hound, so to speak. So why is the US, in your estimation, soft or going soft on Pakistan? Why is the US so reluctant to call Pakistan's bluff on the issue of terrorism?
There are two reasons. One is, Americans are too dependent on Pakistan for security reason, for supply of their systems of food supply, everything supplies that goes from Karachi to Pakistan, because Iran is on the other side, is not allowing access to them, and from Central Asia they are finding it also difficulty to enter into that area. So they are too dependent. Secondly, Pakistan's geopolitical situation is very important in American strategy or calculus. So they see, Pakistan. They trying they are still hopeful that they will win over Pakistan. But whereas we believe, the Pakistan is now totally aligned itself with China, and not going back to the American or not promoting American interest in this region. So these are the difficulties. They are still hopeful. Once they are convinced that Pakistan is not promoting their interests, I think then they will impose sanctions.
Right, and very quickly, Ambassador Parthasarathy, how must India navigate the next few months? Trump is visiting India in the next few days, and in the next few weeks or months, how must India negotiate the affairs vis-a-vis Pakistan and Afghanistan, given the complexities involved
I would
in
say
that
that I would
relationship?
feel that we should make it very clear to President Trump that he should not ignore history. That the 9/11 attacks were planned and executed from Afghanistan, and it would be in American interest certainly not to have land forces there, but at least provide the government air support.
Right.
That is crucial. It can turn the balance one way or another. Whether he will do it or not is an open question. But his withdrawal is almost certain. And Zalmay Khalilzad, I've seen him heading from New York quite often there, his envoy. So yeah, that's something we should take for granted.
Sure.
I can't see any American president wanting a future military presence. They have lost about 2,400 soldiers. It's a different matter that 35,000 Afghans have died.
Right.
So this is going to continue. I feel sorry for the people of Afghanistan. There is political uncertainty. President Ghani does not know whether he'll be in office sometime from now. The whole question of the validity of his elections has come up. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed. But I must say one thing. Because of our assistance, which has been very imaginative, everything from building dams to building schools to setting up hospitals, that I can vouch for it that the 4 visits I've had there, they love the Indians.
Great.
And not to forget Bollywood movies.
Absolutely.
So there is a great fondness for India.
Goodwill for India.
There's a lot of goodwill for in Pashtun minds, in fact, in Afghan minds.
Sure.
So what's going to happen to the Ghani government? All these are up in the air.
Indeed. Mr. Agha, I'll give you the last word. How must India negotiate the next few months insofar as Pakistan and Afghanistan are concerned?
With President?
Given the fact that the US has own priorities.
We have number of options, I think regional cooperation is also needed to deal with the issue of militancy. In case if American withdrawing from the Afghanistan, as they mentioned, and they want to withdraw, desperately want to withdraw from that area. In that case, then we'll have to talk to the Central Asian states or the other states in the region, to combat terrorism, train Pakistani military, Afghan military. These things, military cooperation should continue. I'm not saying that the Indian troops should go there, but in some other countries or some other places, trainers can be trained. And
All right. On that note, Mr. Kamar Agha and Ambassador Parthasarathy, thank you so much for joining me in the discussion. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap on this special broadcast. But news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.